Man, I gotta say, episode 3 of Bad Batch delivers and fires on all cylinders. So let's discuss what I found and my thoughts on this one. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of our videos, please like our content and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out and gives us the opportunity of creating more content for you. Okay, let's get into it. This episode is titled The Solitary Clone and was directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Amanda Rose Munoz. So in this episode, we're introduced to the once separatist world of Dysix, an independent planet that the Empire is now seizing control of and trying to implant their own Imperial governor. It's very interesting to see the expansion and control that the Empire is making here, knowing that one day Tarkin will rely on these regional governors to keep their local systems in line when they finally disband the Senate. We see this in A New Hope. This is laying the groundwork for that control. And of course, the leader of Dysix, Governor Tawny Ames, does not submit and takes the Imperial Governor Groton captive, which sets off the main mission of this episode. Going into this episode, I was very curious to see who the solitary clone would end up being. I didn't know for sure. Would it be Hauser from the first season or perhaps Rex? Well, we got our answer right away in this episode that centered squarely on Crosshairs, who we find has been rescued after 32 rotations on Kamino and is back serving the Empire. Right away, we see how alone he really is, the singular member of the Bad Batch who was left behind because good soldiers follow orders. During a meal, some of the clones are casually talking about the defense recruitment bill and that it was up for a vote again. This is probably a directive that increases recruitment of civilians to be trained as troopers. I love that we're getting some of the political elements sprinkled into this show, and others too. Speaking of recruiting civilians to serve as troopers, let's talk about TK troopers. Whereas the clones are designated CT troopers, the conscripted soldiers are designated TK troopers. We saw them in the first season of Bad Batch. The TK designation stands for Trooper Corps. These TK troopers later will be known as Stormtroopers. These early TK trooper designs are based off of an early concept art by Ralph McQuarrie. It's great to see them continue to incorporate his early designs in these shows. It's awesome to see. When Crosshair sits down to eat, we see that the two clone troopers sitting there get up and move somewhere else, indicating once again how isolated he is from the regular clone troopers. We see that Crosshairs gets assigned to a familiar clone commander, and we finally get to see Commander Cody once again, decked out in white and gray rather than his orange and white armor that he once wore. Now, if you didn't know, Commander Cody led the 212th Attack Battalion and was Obi-Wan Kenobi's second in command. And Cody and Obi-Wan developed a close friendship during their time serving in the Clone Wars, which definitely made it all the more devastating when Cody turned on his friend during Order 66 on Utapau. So Cody and Crosshairs meet at the Battle Memorial, which is a wall filled with writing in Arabesh, probably noting the names of the fallen clone troopers memorialized in a manner reminiscent of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. The backdrop and the setting of the clone trooper base is beautifully rendered, and I very much like the detail. With Commander Cody and a squadron of clone troopers, they set off on a mission to Dysix on a quote-unquote diplomatic envoy. This felt very reminiscent to Leia's diplomatic mission to Alderaan, both of which turn out to not be so diplomatic. The transport gets shot down and they find themselves in a familiar battle setting against battle droids, very reminiscent of the Clone Wars. One trooper asks why the droids didn't receive the shutdown order, which is a reference to Revenge of the Sith, where we see Darth Vader shut down all the Separatist droids on Mustafar. Clearly these ones were not shut down, and we get to see all the old familiar versions, from destroyer droids to assassin droids to the tactical droid. Through this episode, we see Commander Cody interact with civilians, and he tells them that it's okay, we're here to help. It shows that Cody cares about the people, and they are not just separatists in his eyes, but innocent bystanders. And Crosshair gets his time to shine in this episode as the expert marksman, with shooting a tank through a barrel and utilizing mirror pucks to angle shots upstairs to hit targets. It's extremely impressive and entertaining to boot. So when they reach Tawny Ames holding the Imperial Governor hostage, Cody diffuses the situation in a peaceful manner, fully believing that the Empire is there to secure order and peace across the galaxy. This ideal Cody has is immediately challenged when Governor Groton orders him to kill the leader. Cody hesitates and doesn't follow the order, and Crosshairs ends up taking the shot. This was very interesting to see throughout the episode, seeing Cody struggle with how things have happened, even seeming very uneasy when Crosshairs mentioned clone troopers going AWOL are traitors just like the Jedi. You can tell that Commander Cody is struggling internally with what is right, and his sense of duty and honor is challenged by this new empire. We learn by the end of the episode that Cody ends up going AWOL himself, and once again Crosshair finds himself all alone, the solitary clone. This was a great character-centric story that really puts you in the shoes of Crosshairs and Cody, and definitely is something I was looking forward to seeing going into this season of Bad Batch. I feel like Cody's our through line for what each of the clones is going through as they inevitably get closer to being phased out, questioning what they have done and the battles that they have fought, and that the fight for peace in the galaxy led to anything but. It'll be interesting to see where Cody goes from here. I do believe that Cody will end up dying, possibly sacrificing himself, which will offer him a way to redeem himself for all that he has done for the Empire. What do you think will happen to Cody, and where do you think he's going? Leave your comments below and let me know your thoughts. For my rating, I can't find any fault in this episode, so I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. This makes me very excited to see what comes next, and it seems like they're giving us quality stories this season. It's definitely worth the watch. Thanks for joining me here at Fatherly Fandom, and if you've enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video, and as always, from our families to yours, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.